Path of Exile players, you need a way to scan your items in the game, and I'm going to go ahead and go over one of the best free tools to actually scan your items to tell you how much is this item actually worth. It's one of the greatest things ever added to the game. It really helps out, and they just updated it last night with the Rise of the Abyssal League. So first off, I want to go ahead and go over like a brief tutorial and go over how to use it, and it's really important that you guys pay attention to this video all the way through, because I'm going to save you so much frustration and time with the application, because there's a lot of stuff to learn here. So let's go ahead and go over. First off, you got to download the application. So again, I will link the GitHub over in the pin, or if you're watching this on TikTok, link in the bio, or just find the video and then it'll be in the pin of that video. It's just TikTok doesn't let you link sometimes. But basically, this is what you want. You want to download if you're on Linux, Macs, whatever. It's called, the name of the program is called Exile Exchange 2. Make sure you download it from like the official place. Again, I will link the official place. So all you do is you download it, you install it, reset PoE, reset your computer, whatever. And then you want to go ahead and open it up while Path of Exile is opened, and it will basically open up, and by default it'll say, like in the middle of the screen, it'll pop up. Let me go and show you guys that right now. So now I'm opening up the app, and it'll pop up right in the center. Exile Exchange 2 is ready and running in the background. Now it is open, but you have to configure the files, otherwise, well, it's going to be a nightmare. So the first thing that you're going to do by default is hit Shift plus space. This will open up the menu here where you get to do all of your settings, and this is where, again, you need to pay attention, because if you don't, it's going to be a nightmare. So first off, hit Shift plus space, and then what you want to do is click on the little cogwheel, which is the setting here. This is where you get to configure and set up your own hotkeys. If you want to copy mine, you can copy mine. But the most important thing that you want is open without auto hide, and set this for your keybind to your scanner. This is going to scan in game your item. So you want to make sure that this is the hotkey that you want to be able to use. There's also other things where you can do a map check or item info, and then your overlay, which is basically your settings, is defaulted to Shift plus space. So I already have this one as default, but this is the only one that matters. You do not want auto hide mode. This is one of the most annoying things ever, and it's set up by default like that. You want open without auto hide. This is what you want set. I don't even have a bind for this. The reason why is if you move your mouse off, it's just really annoying. The one that everyone uses is open without auto hide. I gotta stress this again, because I see this in the comments all the time when I update these videos. I've made sure that this is the one that you want, guys. Control plus E or whatever hotkey that you want. Okay, so set that one up, and then you also want to do map check or item info. Perhaps. The only real important one, I'll be honest, is this one. Now, there's another thing that you want to make sure that you do, which is that under your price check right here, okay, you want to make sure that you're in whatever league. If you're playing standard, you select standard. If you're on the Rise of the Abyssal, which is the new league, the third edict, this is the one that you want to make sure. Otherwise, it will scan the items for another league. This is also absolutely critical that you pay attention to this. Okay, the next thing over here is fill stat values. So this is a very important thing as well. When you scan an item, you do not want to copy the exact stats 99% of the time, because if it has like 35 fire res and the difference is like 1 fire res and the price goes up like crazy, just because of that, you don't want to scan and kind of see these values that are kind of out of whack. So the reason why you do fill stat values, in most cases, the only time the exact value usually matters is on specifically like a unique. But if it's like plus levels, usually that won't matter if it's a 10%. And those are the things that will get you really, really like high values in terms of like making things much more expensive. Basically, just put it 10%. It'll be pretty much very accurate. But again, there are some items where this might not be the best thing to do. On specifically uniques that are absolutely perfect in every role, obviously, yeah, then you scan them, and I'll show you guys how that works. But that's, again, one of the most important things that you got to make sure that you also do. And then also, if there is map check, like certain builds, this is kind of for PoE 1, but the most important thing is that, like, if there's a map that has like reflect damage or like a certain amount of things that like your build cannot do, make sure that you go ahead and select whatever things like that you don't want. Let's say if the monsters have like resistances, you're like, oh, I can't run that map or whatever. This is kind of optional, but I want to go over that. And the most important thing is also the hotkey for PoE DB or PoE wiki. This is a huge thing to go ahead and have access to as well, and I'll explain that. So now that I went over like the basic hotkey, and remember also, whenever settings that you change at the very end, hit save, okay? That's another very important thing that I think I should mention over there. So once you change your settings for whatever scanner, and I'll go over how to actually scan. So let's say, okay, we pick up this item and we want to scan, is this spear worth anything? I then hit Control E, that's my hotkey. Now, I need to make sure I check in what stats am I looking for. Now, depending on the item, it matters what the item actually has, the base. It'll factor in all of these. Also the item level, if I click that, that will factor that in. Now, if I go ahead and say that like it's got these stats, and I'm not going to check in these because these are stats that people wouldn't want. Let's say, you know, there's an Amazon build that are running the one where you want more accuracy. We can check this, and you can see over here, it's selling for 1 regal. I can also click on trade. It'll open up on, well, it's going to require me to sign in, but basically it'll open up on the Path of Exile trade website an item that is very similar to what we just scanned. Again, I'll go ahead and do this real quick, and then you guys can see how it works. So basically, if I do this, well, I'm not going to select these ones again because these stats, if the stat is not desirable, do not select it. And the reason why is there might be some build that actually wants it, but for the most part, it's not something that every build would want. So I'm going to go ahead and drag the other thing that opened up, and you can see it's the spear that has the exact same stats, and I did not check these ones in. That is important, and it's going to put all the DPS and everything like that. And also you can check if you want to make sure it's corrupted or whatever, you can do that as well. But this way you can see how much the item is worth. Like, so let's say, for example, this chest piece over here, I wanted to scan it. It will make sure that it sucks the correct things over here. Now, in this item, every single stat is valuable, so I would check in all of it. And if you see 0 results, that means there's nothing. So what can you do? Remember how I said about that 10% thing? Maybe we can lower the fire res, or we don't really need any sort of specific res, it's just any resistance, right? So what I could do is I can hit trade over here, I can bring up the website, and again, there's no results, right? Well, maybe instead of this, I can also add I'm going to put weighted sum of, let's say, fire res, and then I could also put like cold res, and then also lightning res, because as long as it has a resistance, it is kind of the same value. Hopefully this is kind of making some sense when you're actually using the tool. So I'm going to put weighted sum. Let's say I need at least like 15, okay, because that's kind of what we're looking at, and it just needs to also have this. That way I can see kind of a similar item that might not be exactly, because just because it has, let's say, fire res versus lightning res and cold res, they may not have the same value. There are certain items where it would matter, but I just want to let you guys know that, like, when you're scanning, don't look at this, and like sometimes you can look at a really bad item, and if it's like exactly these amount of numbers with this specific resistance, the prices may look like they're in one direction, but they are a completely different one. Like if I scan this over here, we'll see how much this is. And then we can also select desecrated. This is one of the brand new things that got added into the update. If you're wondering what the heck is a desecrated, this is the brand new like Abyssal League thing. And sometimes these, just as a heads up, they count as their own like resistance, which is kind of like bad, and it makes sense though, because like you may not want to get a desecrated mod because you want to reroll over it. So like it's not the same as just a regular cold res. This could have, is usually, I'll be honest, it's usually lower valued than a regular cold res. And the reason why the desecrated mods, in most circumstances, again, there's always exceptions, but the reason why is a lot of people would rather be able to then desecrate the item after, because you cannot just infinitely desecrate an item, which is part of like the main reason why I wanted to make this update about like the desecrated items and stuff. But again, another great thing that you can do, if you hold, well, my keybind is Control D, again, set up your own keybinds, is that you can also not only price check items, and like, you know, again, you can check in all the things, find out what's this thing worth, and again, sometimes you might not find the exact item, but you can see, boom, there it is. Also, if it does have a rune in it, try not to check these. The reason why is that most of the time, people can put in whatever rune, they're not really worried about that, so sometimes this can matter. And the one that would matter technically is the additional arrow on the bow socket, but let's be real, that's like a divine plus, so most people would understand that, but I'm just giving you guys all the info so you guys don't make some mistakes with this, because you might see an item, you're like, wow, dude, this is worth 2 divines, and it's because you're again selecting things that might not matter, and there's nothing in the market in that area. But the other great tool that I wanted to mention is, again, Control D for me. I believe that might be the default. It opens up this where it says Wiki, PoEDB, and PoEDB is one of the best websites. It's specifically for gems that is super, super helpful. And I'll go ahead and show you guys kind of like a real example of like a gem. So let's say I was like, oh man, I want to make a lightning spear build. And I can open up PoEDB, and it really helps out. PoEDB, if you guys don't use it, I use it like every few seconds while I'm playing this game. It tells you exactly like what level the requirements are, are, and then also like how much of the stat that's required, what's the base damage and stuff. And I can just bring this up. It's a really great website that goes over basically everything in the game. Just highly can recommend. That way I don't have to open up a new tab. It's just so much easier to just go ahead and hit like Control D and then open up PoEDB, or it also has a hotkey for Craft of Exile, but then I can like learn about the Gemini bow, and like I can learn a lot more. There's also a really good thing that PoEDB has if you do amulets. Specifically, you can see like the weights on some of the modifiers in terms of the calculations. If this is too far over your head, don't worry, it's a pretty good thing, and I'll probably make a separate video guide that goes over item weights, because this is really important when you're crafting to know like what are my chances, at least before just slamming something and just hoping that something goes through. But again, it really comes down to just the nice tool and kind of explaining kind of how things work when you're scanning. But yeah, that's basically it. If there's any confusion or if there's any questions, let me know down below and I'll try to answer them, as well as maybe make a future video for this in terms of like an update if there's any questions with the Exile Exchange 2. So also, it's completely free. There's no pop-ups or anything like that like Overlay has, which is kind of the reason why I like this. And again, this is completely free. It does not sponsor anything. It's just the best tool in the game, absolutely. Anyways, that's going to wrap things up. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like on it, and if you want to see more guides in the future, go ahead and check them out. I have a lot of really good PoE guides that will save you tons and tons of times. But anyways, peace out, Exiles. Have a good one, and enjoy Exile Exchange 2. It's the best tool.